Hey everybody, welcome back. Friday night in the shop. Let's just keep rocking and rolling on this 064. Today's video, let's check the crankshaft. Did it stiffen up since it cooled off? I built the bottom end the other night. It is just above freezing or just below freezing in the shop right now. Let's see if the crank stiffened up, and then let's compare OEM to a Hyway cylinder. What are the timing numbers? Are they the same? And then I'll tell you what I think. For those of you that just want to bolt a Hyway cylinder on, what do I think you'll get with the timing and the transfers and all that? And also, let's put a 66 Magnum top end on here. If you're so inclined and you want a big bore, you know, maybe your 064 needs a cylinder. Maybe you want to put a 66 Magnum top end on it. Let's jump right into this and get right to the bench. Well, here's our bottom end that we built on the last video. It's cold in here, friends. I don't even have the heat on tonight. It is 37 degrees Fahrenheit. So, 40. So, just above freezing. Yeah, I can deal with this. Now, remember I said this thing will probably tighten up? Well, it has. Okay, it's not bad, but it's definitely got some issues. This is the normal hammer I use. I knew where it was. I had it. I have many buildings on this property, friends. So this was in another building. And I'll just give her a tap. And it already feels looser. Now, I don't expect this to be super free-flowing because, well, it's cold in here, but okay, and again, we look for, is it centered? It pretty much is. It needs to go a little bit to the left. So one more time. It's all in the wrist. Okay, just flick your wrist. Okay. You can't overstrike this. Just don't use anything hard. There we go, friends. That was the magic touch right there. She's nice and loose now. Again, not floppy because, well, it is cold in here. And these bearings do have a little bit of factory grease in them. But, again, like I said, for me, often, because I don't build a saw in a day, these are things I've noticed. You wouldn't notice this if you built the saw all in one day. But I tend to build my bottom ends one day, or, you know, in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I'll check them out again as they cool down. Because I find often they need a little massaging. And then I just put a rag over it to keep the dust out. I guess depending on how dusty your shop is. This one's pretty dusty, friends. I dream of the day that I can move into a new shop. That will happen one of these days as I find time. Time is always the enemy for me. It's not it's not getting the work done or lining it up. It's always time. And but that's good, right? It's good to be busy. Okay, so where we're at now with this, we have to decide what we're doing with it, right? Are we going factory cylinder? Are we going aftermarket? Are we going to reuse this piston? Let's get into that today, and maybe we'll throw a timing wheel on this and see where it lines up. Okay, let's move this back for now. Let's go over your possibilities with one of these. Factory cylinder. Okay. This one's got some wear on it. It's not horrendous though, but it does have some wear. Intake side especially. Can't feel any of that, but you can definitely see it. A slight scuff with a hone may do that up, but that's where it's at right now. So we kind of know we could reuse this. So this is definitely an option. Option number 2, friends. And this is where I love the aftermarket offerings, okay? This is an 064 top end kit. Now, for years, stuff like this was not available. When I started working on saws, a lot of these parts you couldn't get for some of these more oddball saws. Not that this is an oddball saw, but not a ton of these left out there. Okay, so what you end up with here is a Hyway aftermarket cylinder. Okay, that's what you got. Okay, now really today's video, I really just want to focus on the differences between all these. You know, what are your options? And, you know, which way would I go? Okay, so you have an OEM, a Hyway. Okay, and is the Hyway exactly the same? It appears to be close. There are some differences in the fins, but all in all, it looks pretty close. Now, first thing I want to study, transfers. Okay. OEM transfers, Hyway. Well, the bottom lower transfers are identical. The Hyway upper transfers are bigger. Now, do they time different? Well, we won't know that until we put a wheel on these, but the upper transfers on the Hyways are substantially bigger. Exhaust port, well, intake port, the Hyway is substantially bigger, longer. Okay, Hyway, OEM. It doesn't pick up on the camera as well, but the Hyway is way lower. Might be a good thing, depending on how these things time. This might be a cylinder that absolutely rocks and rolls out of the box. Squish band. I suspect the OEM squish band may be a little bit better. It's thin. The Hyway's a little thicker. You can see it there. Not by much, but a little bit. Combustion chambers. Again, the OEM seems to have a little smaller combustion chamber from what I'm seeing. That might just be my eye. And exhaust ports, well, Hyway, OEM. Okay, the OEM is square, but the Hyway's nice, friends. I mean, look at the finish on this cylinder. Okay, I know over the years there's been a lot of people that are like, oh, you don't want to buy anything aftermarket. Well, that's not true. 10 years ago, yeah, aftermarket was rubbish. I had nothing but problems with aftermarket cylinders for chainsaws. They look like they were made in a cave by a 7-year-old. A lot of the times, friends. I'm not kidding. They were just rough. Port timing was off. The plating was horrible. The castings were rough. But now, like, this is, you know, this is a nice cylinder. It's nicely finished. It's got nice plating on it. Okay. The ports are just beautifully shaped and finished. You can't go wrong. In fact, these things are so smooth that I tend to rough them up, friends. So, okay, so I'm not saying, like, this might be, if you're doing a bolt-on, this might be the way to go based on what I'm seeing. Looks like you get a little more intake timing. I'm not sure. Exhaust port looks like a similar height. And again, we can time this in another video. Okay, we could time all three of these if you guys want. Now, your last option, and I think this is an option. Again, I am not a Stihl aficionado. There's a lot of guys that play with Stihls. I'm not counted as one of them generally. I'm generally known as a Husky guy or a Home Light guy or, okay. This is your other option. You could put on a big bore, which is the 066 Magnum top end. Notice it's a bigger bore. Okay, this one, and if you look at the box, it'll tell you. Okay, this one is 52 mil. This one is 54 mil. Okay, so there's your difference right there. And again, typical Hyway. It looks the same inside. Same transfers, same finish, minty. The intake's deeper on this, a little bit bigger. Okay, exhaust port. I mean, friends, this is a thing of beauty. Look at the finish on this thing. Come on. I don't care who you are and where you're from. That's a good looking cylinder. You know, same thing. Another one. I could open box after box. It's rare that you get one that really even needs to be cleaned up. Okay, like you can feel, you know, feel with your fingers the chamfer, and it's not sharp. Okay, a lot of aftermarket cylinders, you get sharp chamfers in them. Okay, so I mean, if you don't want to horse around, you want the biggest saw possible, Okay, take this and shunk, bolt her on, and you have a 66 Magnum top end on an 064. Probably be a good running saw, let's be honest. I don't have a 66 Magnum bottom end. This bottom end, that crank fits in there pretty tight. There's not a lot of room in there. So again, you know, I have a feeling that these things are runners. Now I know an 064 is a runner because I ran one at Bucket Stock that was ported, and that thing ran. It was strong to the point I forgot it was an 80cc saw. The fellow that did that saw did a heck of a job on it. Now let's compare pistons. Okay, Hyway, Meteor, you can already see, or sorry, Meteor, Hyway. Okay, same deck height, but here's the difference. The transfers are bigger on the Hyway. Okay, that's a big deal for me. Let's look at the OEM piston versus the Meteor. Smaller transfers. Meteor seems to have a slightly higher crown height, slightly shorter skirt height, but again, small windows. Okay, that seems to be consistent with Meteor from my my findings, my dealings. Meteor pistons, they're beautiful, they're well made, they have a lot of material in them. So it's kind of always my recommendation. If you want a super high quality stock replacement, you're not going to be monkeying around with porting, I would probably go with Meteor. Now, I tend to use Meteor pistons. I think these are the best aftermarket pistons on, well, just period. Okay. Or the ones that are available to the market, I think these are the best ones. Okay. That's been my experience. I haven't found a more high quality piston. Hyway, they tend to have bigger windows. Hyway pistons, I would say, are a little softer than Meteor pistons. I have no way to quantify that other than I've ground on both of them. But these tend to have bigger windows. They flow a little bit better. So again, if you're going for more power, I often recommend the Hyway over the Meteor. Now, either way, they're both quality and they'll both get you down the road. Now, when you look at the Hyway versus the OEM, the windows are about the same size. Okay, so your air flows through here into your lower transfers. Okay, so it's hard to say what it would do. With the Meteor, with the smaller windows, you might build more case pressure when the piston's going down. How that'll affect airflow going into the top, who knows? Because you also get airflow underneath here, right, into your transfers. But I'm just showing you guys what I see. Both excellent choices. So you go with one or the other. I think you'll be happy. I'm sure these are long out of existence. Could I reuse this? Yep. This piston does have intake wear. And again, there's the pins. This is the intake side. See how it's shiny? And it's getting a little thin here. Could I reuse this? Yes. Is it going to last forever? No, but nothing lasts forever. If you had to re-ring this and reuse it, I would say okay. But it's not going to last as long. And when you do wear this piston out, it's going to catch. See if I can get this wrist pin out because it's kind of stuck. Sorry, friends. When you do wear this piston out, let's just push it out here if it wants to go. It may not want to go. Wow, that thing's really stuck in there. There we go. When you do wear this thing out finally, it's going to start to rock. It's not bad. It's got some movement. I can feel it. It's not horrible though, friends. I would reuse this. But when you do wear this final little bit out, and it's usually on this side, when it does get thin enough, it will rock, and eventually you'll break this bottom off here. Okay, and when you do that, you'll also wreck this nice cylinder. So I will not be reusing this piston. You could use it though. I've reused many a piston on this channel. You guys have seen it over the years. If you're new, welcome. If you're new here, please go to my playlist if you're looking for anything specific. I have a lot of playlists on a lot of different saws. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is just quick and dirty. I'm going to pop a timing wheel. I'm going to zero it off camera, because you guys have seen zeroing many times. If you're new to porting, please check out my How to Port a Chainsaw series. It is a long one. I did one a week for 15 weeks. It is approximately 7 hours of content. I cut no corners with that one. I spent a lot of time doing it. I start with a saw. I grabbed a random saw, which happened to be an Echo 670, and I went through it and ported it, okay, step by step, including running it stock. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, please check that out. I'm very proud of that series. Could I remake it and update it? Yes. I know a lot more now than I did then when I made that, but I think that's a good baseline for anybody new. I thought of making a second series of that. I don't know if you guys are interested in that, but I would love to refilm that sometime and make a newer, updated version with what I know now. If you guys are interested in that, maybe post a comment below. I could start filming it at any time, do one episode a week like I did last time. Anyhow, I'm going to put a timing wheel in this right here. I'm going to put a pointer. We'll find zero. And just for conversation's sake, I'm going to put the Hyway piston in, because I think likely that's what I'm going to use. Actually, you know what, friends? Let's go with Old Glory here. The Meteor piston. I'll grind on it and make it flow a little bit better. So we're going to put the Meteor piston, and we will time the OEM and the 064. I guess I could time this too if we can fit it in the video of the 66 Magnum. Give me a second here, and I'm going to set it up, and we'll do a quick and dirty timing. Okay, guys, we're zeroed. This is a Meteor piston with an OEM cylinder. Okay, OEM cylinder. I have you set up in a way that you are seeing this. Let's see if we can get this thing to focus a little bit better. Okay, you are seeing what I'm seeing. 50.5 is what I'm seeing right now. Okay. Okay, there's top dead center. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my giant flashlight here through the spark plug hole, and I'm going to time the exhaust port. Okay. I want to make sure that you guys can see what I'm seeing. Yeah, you're pretty close there. You always get some parallax in the camera. Okay, so there's top dead center. Piston's coming down. It usually opens about somewhere around 100, whether it be before or after. Okay. I'm just looking for the first ray of light. Right about there. Well, wow. I'm seeing 98 roughly. Let's see if we can get you guys to see 98. Well, I'm just gonna move the camera over. Right there, okay? So there's 100, 99, 98. Okay, that's what I'm seeing. Right about there. So yeah, this thing opens at 98. Whew. This is with no base gasket, friends. With a base gasket, this thing probably opens at about 97. Wow. These things are spicy, aren't they? I'm just going to move my light here just a little bit, just to see. I'm going to move you guys over just to see if I'm getting... I'm going to dim that light a little bit because I'm just making sure that this is the correct... Well, okay, so friends, because this exhaust port is so short, I'm going to time it right there. Okay, so 100. So yeah, friends, if this thing had, I'm seeing about 99 to 100, right there, 100. If this thing had a base gasket in it, This thing would open at about 98 to 99, probably closer to 99 after top dead center. These things are spicy out of the box. Stihl built some absolute hot rods in this era, late 80s. Okay, now I'm just going to look through the exhaust port and see where my transfer's open. Right about there. Okay, so we're 23 degrees of blowdown, roughly. You guys are seeing a little bit of parallax, but just always go to the left, okay? Whatever tick is to the left. So we're 120, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's what I'm seeing. 123 after top to center is my timing. So we're 100, 123. Those are really, really good numbers out of the box. Now I'm just going to move this over. You guys can watch this. I will time the intake. Okay, and it opens right there. Right there. And we are, okay, it opens right about there. 75. And let's see if it closes at 75. I'm going to call it when it closes right about there. And it closes at 74 and opens at 75. Now, sometimes this happens. It depends on crank center line. Right about there. So, no, we're 74 and 74. So, this saw 74 plus 74 is 148. Okay, so this times 100, 123. I'm going to write this down on the box so you look at it after. Stock, 100, 100, 123, 148. Those are good numbers, friends. You could just literally, out of the box, run this thing like this. This is a good running saw, I can tell. It's got nice transfers. It's good. Okay, I'm going to unbolt this. Let's put the Hyway piston on, or the Hyway cylinder on. Okay, we'll go to top dead center again. Top dead center. Where does this thing open? Right about there. Whew, she's spicy. 96, friends, with no base gasket. This is what I'm seeing here. Okay, 96. Wow, that's spicy. Okay, 96 after top to center. I'm going to write that down right now. We'll go Hyway. Hyway 96. Where do my transfers open? I'm going to spin this around and put my light back in there. All I'm doing, friends, I'm looking through the front and I'm looking for where the transfers open. Right there. Okay. 125. So uber long blowdown. 125. Let's see what our intake's doing. We saw a big intake on this saw. Okay, we're going up, right? Intake opens right about there. We are at 80. Back down. 80, 81. I'm going to call this 81 in both directions. Okay, 81 plus 81 is 162. Yowzers, that's a spicy cylinder. Okay, just for fun, I'm going to change. I'm going to put the 66 Magnum on just to see what you get with that. Let's do this quick. This is for you guys that just want to bolt the cylinder on. You don't want to mess around. I get it. For some of you, time is money. Maybe make your living with the saw. Okay. See where we at here. This is hard to time, friends. Let's see. Right about there. Okay, we are 95 is what I'm seeing. You guys are seeing 94.5. We are 95, okay? And now let's look at the transfers. Right there, 125. So we're 95, 125. And let's look at the intake again, just for fun. Okay, my intake opens right about there. 85. Right about there. Right about there. 82. And then it closes at right about there. 82. So we're 90, 95, 125, 164. Okay, let's wrap this up. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that stock, and I have the notes written down just to the left of me on a board, so if I'm looking to the left, I'm just reading that. Stock, I suspect that these saws have good mid-range and good upper RPM power. Not like crazy screamer, but probably a fairly strong, fast-cutting saw. In hardwood, it's probably really fast in softwood, and I suspect that these things will run right along with the mighty 181 SE, which is right behind me. I have one. Absolute animal of a saw. Not an RPM saw, but a very good pulling saw. Stock numbers 100 on the exhaust. The exhaust is very squared off. Probably a very strong running saw. 123 is the transfer, so 23 degrees of blowdown. Fairly long blowdown. Where a 288, 281 of this era, which would have went shot for shot with these things, those are short blowdown saws. They're very low end to mid-range power. They don't rev very well. They're just stump pullers. I suspect that these things run, like they pull some RPM. Tell me if I'm wrong, friends. If you own one of these, are they a pretty nasty little saw? And then 148 to 150 on the intake was what I was seeing. Again, good numbers. Ported numbers would be right around there. So I suspect these run good. So where does that leave us? You need a cylinder. Your OEM cylinder is no good, and you got to buy a Hyway. The Hyway it veers from the stock numbers. I'm seeing 96, 125, 162. The exhaust port is pretty round. It's not overly wide. 96, this thing, if you were cutting smaller to mid-size wood, this thing would probably be an animal. Long blowdown. It's going to make a lot of power up top. 162 intake. I don't know how this thing would run like that. That is 12 degrees longer than a stock saw, or 14 degrees, depending on how yours times. That's a lot of extra intake timing. But I suspect because the saw is in the 80cc class, it would idle fine and probably would be fairly snappy. Lots of RPM with a 96-inch roof, but I suspect it would still pull pretty hard. So kind of interesting where Hyway went with their numbers. So yeah, the other thing with the Hyway, the lower transfers are a little wider, they're a little deeper, and the upper transfers are larger, which tells me that the Hyway would probably pull more RPM out of the box. Would probably cut at a higher RPM and be able to sustain it. And this is same guy running it, same bar and chain, or same gal. It should be a higher RPM cutting saw. Likely, if you didn't want to port, you bolted a Hyway on, you'd notice your saw is a little more lively once it broke in. So, interesting. Now, the limitation with the Hyway would be if I dropped the cylinder, okay, did machine work to drop the exhaust roof, I would also gain more intake timing. Now, you might be able to look at running a 272 piston, although I suspect that is shorter. But you could look, there's a lot of 52 millimeter pistons out there. Now, last and not least, the 66 Magnum was 95, 125, 164. Hey guys, it's later on. I'm in the house. My phone actually died from the freezing cold, and I thought, well, that's the end of that video. I hope you guys got something out of this. Kind of shows you the differences. The timing can be very radically different from cylinder to cylinder. I think likely the Hyway 064 top end would probably be a pretty snotty saw. Those are really aggressive timing numbers. It's got big transfers. I think with a light piston and just bolting that cylinder on, you could make a lot of power. Probably wouldn't be the best long bar cylinder, but for everything else, I think that thing would be pretty nuts with that 96 exhaust roof. And the 66 Magnum goes even farther. I don't really like the timing numbers on the 66 Magnum. They're a little past the point for me, but again, who knows how it would run. But I think what we're going to do, we'll use the OEM cylinder. I'll do some transfer work, add a dash of intake timing. I'm probably going to leave the exhaust where it's at 100. And we'll do a bunch of work to the Hyway piston or the Meteor piston, whichever one we want to use, and we'll run it like that. The idea here is I want to make a strong saw, but nothing that's going to be picky or finicky, because again, I am going to be giving this saw away. I think that's it for me today, friends. Thanks for hanging out in the shop. Hopefully you guys are making headway on your projects. And we'll call that a wrap. Thanks for watching. Take her easy. Later.